Supermax prisons. What daily life looks like when you never see the sky. At exactly midnight, the steel doors slide open with a mechanical hiss. A man walks out of his cell for the last time. His friends on death row are awake. They always are on execution nights. Some beat their fists against the bars. Others stay silent. The man stops, turns back toward the cells, and calls out, "I'll see you, fellas." Then he's gone. Down the corridor, through the doors, into a room where a gurney waits. He won't be coming back. This is Indiana State Prison, one of America's oldest maximum security facilities. Behind these walls, 19 undermen live in a world most people will never see. 12 of them live on death row. They know the exact place where they will die. They just don't know when. The doors here control everything. They open and close by computer. No human hand touches them. When you're locked inside, you can't open them yourself. You wait, sometimes for 23 hours a day, sometimes for 20 years, sometimes until the state decides it's time to kill you. Paul McManus knows this rhythm. He's been on death row for over a decade. His cell is spotless. Every surface shines. He doesn't read. He doesn't write. So he cleans. Over and over. There's only so much television you can watch before the shows repeat. Only so many hours you can fill before the silence becomes unbearable. He used to weigh 250 pounds. Now he weighs 166. Depression does that. The roller coaster does that. Up and down. Hope and despair. Waiting and wondering. McManus killed his wife and 2 young daughters. The state will execute him for it. But not yet. First, he gets to visit the prison hospital every day. He's diabetic. The authorities must keep him healthy enough to kill. That's the strange logic of death row. They treat your diseases. They monitor your health. They make sure you're strong enough to die on schedule. When McManus walks to the hospital, he sees sunlight. He passes through the general population. He glimpses men who will never face execution. Men who have life sentences. Men who will die of old age behind these walls. Some of them used to be his friends. Before he was moved to death row, before the invisible line separated him from everyone else. The walk takes 10 minutes. For those 10 minutes, McManus is almost like everyone else, almost free. Then he returns to his cell, to the waiting, to the cleaning, to not knowing when his last walk will come. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay with us for more real stories and honest lessons from the inside. Now let's go inside. Benjamin Ritchie has been on death row for 11 years. He's 32 years old now. He was 19 when he killed a police officer. A kid making decisions without thinking about consequences. A kid who didn't give a damn about what happened next. That kid is gone now, he says. But the debt remains. Every weekend, a woman flies from England to visit him. Her name is never mentioned in official records. She's from St. Albans, Hertfordshire. They met 4 years ago through letters. Pen pals. She visited once. Then again. Then she married him. Married a man on death row. Married a man whose endgame she knows. Ritchie sits behind glass and talks about this. He's honest in a way that surprises people. He admits he needs to be in prison. If he got out and lost his job, he'd rob someone to pay his bills. He wouldn't think twice. It wouldn't bother him. That's who he is. That's why these walls exist. But his case is different, he explains. He shot a cop. The system doesn't forgive that. Even if his lawyers find legal issues in his case, even if there are grounds for appeal, it doesn't matter. They don't like guys who kill police officers. The evidence doesn't change that feeling. The law bends around that truth. His wife knows this. She married him anyway. She comes every weekend and sits across from him in the visiting room. They talk. They laugh sometimes. They pretend for a few hours that the future isn't fixed. Then visiting hours end. She flies back to England. He returns to his cell, the one next to John Stevenson. Stevenson and Ritchie are best friends. Their cells share a wall. They've known each other for 11 years. Since Ritchie first arrived on death row, they play music loud. They play video games. They work out together. They eat together. And if trouble starts, they fight together. That's what friendship means here. Protection, loyalty, someone who has your back when the sharks start circling. And the sharks always circle. Stevenson saw it in his first 2 weeks. A man got stabbed 42 times, right in front of everyone. Dispatched instantly. Butchered. That was his welcome to death row. The message was clear. Show weakness and you become prey. Be strong or be a victim. There's no middle ground. So Stevenson chooses to be a shark. He won't be the one bleeding on the floor. When someone cut Richie with a knife, Stevenson prepared to kill that person. The administration heard about it. They moved Stevenson and Richie to different cells, away from the threat. They separated the man who cut Richie, isolated him in the front of the block where nobody could reach him. That's how death row works. Violence lurks in every interaction. Trust exists only between tested friends. Everyone else is a potential threat. The staff knows this. They track every inmate on a board. Names, cell locations, relationships, debts, grudges. One mistake in scheduling could put 2 enemies in the same shower. One error could cost a life. The guards live with this tension every day. The inmates live with it every hour. And time moves differently here. Richie describes it like a slow suffocation. Days blend together. Weeks disappear. Years accumulate until you look up and a decade has passed. And you're still here. Still waiting. Still breathing air that tastes like recycled despair. Ronald L. Sanford arrived at Indiana State Prison in 1989. He was 15 years old. The crime happened when he was 13. Double homicide. 2 elderly women. $5 stolen. That's the math of his life. 2 lives ended. 1 life frozen. $5 that bought him nothing but regret. He's 38 now. He's been inside these walls for 25 years. Longer than he lived outside them. He's never been to prom. Never driven a car. Never held a driver's license. Never filed a tax return. Never boarded an airplane. Never traveled to another country. Every milestone that marks the passage from childhood to adulthood passed him by. He watched them through books, through television, through the stories other inmates told. But he never lived them. His sentence is 170 years. The number sounds impossible, like a mistake, like someone added an extra 0. But it's real. He's eligible for parole when he turns 100 years old. 52 years from now, he'll be dead long before then. Everyone knows it. Sanford knows it. The guards know it. The parole board that will never see him knows it. He lives in the administrative segregation unit now. Not death row, but close. This is where the prison keeps its most dangerous inmates. Gang members, drug dealers, sexual predators, men who can't function in general population, men who would kill or be killed within hours if given the chance. They're locked in their cells 23 hours a day. For 1 hour, they're allowed into individual steel cages. Alone, always alone. Sanford's cell is different from Paul McManus's pristine space. Books cover every surface. Philosophy, science, history, metaphysics. The tree of life sits on one shelf. War Against the Weak on another. A book about eugenics. About America's attempt to create a master race. He reads about deep questions. Where humans come from. Where they're going. Who they are. Questions that matter more when you're living in a cage. On his wall, he's written reminders. Strength. Well-being, health, words to focus on, words to push away the darkness. Below that, another phrase, no man is your enemy. No man is your friend. Every man is your teacher. He reads it every day. He believes it, or he tries to. The lieutenant opens his cell door. Sanford steps out. He's polite, articulate. He speaks like someone who spent years teaching himself. Because that's exactly what he did. The prison didn't educate him. He educated himself. Through books, through discipline, through refusing to let this place destroy his mind even as it consumed his life. He talks about the isolation. 4 walls. That's his existence. Some people might not feel it, he says, but he does. Everyone in this building does. You put an animal in a cage too long, it goes crazy. How much more so humans? The words hang in the air. A truth nobody wants to acknowledge. This place breaks people. Slowly, methodically, year after year. A young inmate down the range is 19 or 20. Barely older than Sanford was when he arrived. The kid is showing signs of psychosis. Hallucinations. Paranoia. Losing his grip on reality. They took him to see the psychologist. But what can psychologists do? The cage remains. The isolation remains. The endless hours locked in a small space with nothing but your thoughts, your regrets, your rage. Sanford survived by escaping. Not physically. That's impossible. But mentally. Through books. Through ideas. Through imagining worlds beyond these walls. The books allow him to leave. To travel. To think about something other than the crime he committed at 13. The crime that defines every moment of his life. He was a child. Not legally, but actually, his brain wasn't fully developed. He couldn't imagine consequences. He didn't understand death the way adults do. He and his friend wanted money for a fare. They went to a house to cut grass. The people said no. Instead of leaving, instead of going to the next house, they pushed inside. And 2 people died. That's the sentence in official records. Clinical. Brief. But Sanford lives with a full weight. 25 years of weight. He calls an albatross around his neck. Everywhere he goes. Everything he does. For the rest of his life. It follows him. The faces of those women. The moment everything changed. The $5 that cost him everything. Now he's back in his cell. The door closes. The computer locks it. He's alone again. With his books. With his thoughts. With the knowledge that this is his life. This has always been his life. This will always be his life. Until he dies here. In this cage. In this prison. Never free. Rick Parrish has been cutting hair since 1976. He's 62 years old. He arrived at Indiana State Prison in January 1975. 37 years ago. He's serving 3 life sentences plus 10 years. The math doesn't really matter. 3 lives means he's never leaving. The 10 years on top is just paperwork. A number that means nothing when infinity already applies. His barbershop is unlike anywhere else in the prison. Clean, organized, almost peaceful. The walls are covered with photographs, pictures spanning decades. Rick at different ages, different weights, different stages of life, all behind these same walls. The oldest photo shows him in 1976. Young, strong, full of possibility, despite the cage. The newest shows him now. Gray hair, lined face, a life measured in haircuts and decades. He mounted every photograph on cardboard, carefully, precisely, so if he ever gets out, he can fold them up and take them with him. A reminder, don't come back. Don't make the same mistakes. Don't end up here again. He knows he's never getting out. Everyone knows, but the cardboard remains. The possibility preserved, just in case. The barbershop has rules. Unspoken but absolute. It's neutral territory. Gang members leave their colors at the door. Officers relax their guard. Violence has no place here. In 37 years, there's never been an incident, never a fight, never a weapon pulled, never blood on the floor, because nobody attacks the man holding scissors near their throat. Nobody wants to lose the one place in the prison that feels almost normal. Rick describes his time here in simple terms. You do it one day at a time, sometimes 1 hour at a time, sometimes 1 minute at a time, whatever it takes to get through. Then you look up and 37 years went by. That's how it works. You don't think about decades. You can't. The weight would crush you. You think about today, about this haircut, about tonight's meal, about tomorrow's sunrise. Small moments, small victories. His cellmate is Mike. They've shared a cell for 2.5 years. In a space barely big enough for one person, they've learned to coexist. Rick's side, Mike's side, clear boundaries, unspoken respect. When one is up moving around, the other stays on his bunk. They take turns. They give each other privacy. As much privacy as two men in a cage can give. They live in an honor cell, a privilege earned through years of good behavior. These cells are quieter than the regular blocks. Calmer. You can hear yourself think. You can sleep without constant noise. It's not freedom, but it's closer than the alternative. Rick knows how the other blocks sound. The screaming, the banging, the endless chaos. He won't go back there. He'll do whatever it takes to stay here. But even honor cells can't block out everything. Death row is in the same building. Close enough to hear. Close enough to know when someone's time comes. Rick refuses to cut hair there. He won't go to death row. He won't meet those men. He won't learn their names or their stories. Because if you get friendly with them, you lose them. They get executed. And you've lost another friend. He's lost enough friends already. Through attrition, through age, through violence, through the slow, grinding machinery of prison life. He doesn't need to add more names to that list. Doesn't need more faces in his memory. More ghosts haunting his cell at night. The last execution he remembers was Wiggles, the man's nickname. His real name lost to prison culture. Wiggles walked past the honor cells on his last night. Stopped. Called out, "I'll see you, fellas." Everyone was awake. They're always awake on execution nights. Some inmates used to beat on the bars at midnight. A ritual, an acknowledgement, a protest maybe, or just noise to fill the silence. Rick doesn't keep count of executions. He tried not to dwell on the number. There would be too many. Each one a reminder that the state can kill you legally, that justice sometimes means death, that some crimes earn a debt you pay with your last breath. James Harrison knows about that debt. He spent 18 and a half years on death row, convicted of killing 3 people. His execution date was set, 2 months away, close enough to taste, close enough to feel the needle. Then his lawyers found something, a biased judge, grounds for a new trial. The courts agreed. They offered him a deal, 150 years instead of death. He took it without hesitation. He's 62 now. His release date is when he turns 66. For years. But those 4 years are impossible. The math doesn't work. No 62-year-old man serves 150 years. He'll die here, in this prison, but not on death row, not on a gurney, not with poison in his veins. He'll die naturally, maybe in his sleep, maybe in the prison hospital, maybe in his cell, but he'll die free of an execution date. That's the strange freedom of a life sentence. You know you're never leaving. You know these walls are your coffin, but you don't know the exact date and time of your death. You don't count down days. You don't watch the appeals run out. You don't wait for the governor's phone call that never comes. You just live, day by day, year by year, until your heart stops beating. Harrison describes the difference. On death row, there's no hope. Once they execute you, it's over. No more wondering. No more appeals. No more chances. Nothing. Out here in general population, there's still hope. Small hope. Impossible hope, maybe. But hope nonetheless. You can work. You can go to the chow hall. You can attend chapel. You can walk in the yard. You can feel sunlight. You can pretend you're almost human. Those 18 years on death row were hard. Very hard. Sitting there waiting for your last meal. Your last day. Not knowing when it would come. The uncertainty mixed with certainty. You will die. But when? Tomorrow? Next month? Next year? The waiting becomes torture. The not knowing becomes a weight that crushes your chest every morning you wake up. When Harrison heard his execution was stopped, when he learned about the new trial, when they offered him 150 years, it was a great moment. Even with all that time, even knowing he'd die in prison, it was a great moment. Because where there's life, there's hope. That's what he says. That's what he believes. That's what keeps him going. Rick finishes another haircut. The young man thanks him and leaves. Another customer sits down. The routine continues. The same routine for 37 years. Cut hair, sweep floors, clean equipment, small talk, silence, then do it again tomorrow. And the day after, And the day after that, forever. Benjamin Ritchie sits across from me now, face to face. No glass between us. No telephone. Just a table and 2 chairs, and the weight of what he's done. The bravado from earlier is gone. When he was with his friend John Stevenson, he could joke. He could laugh. He could pretend this was just another day in another place. But alone, the mask slips. The truth shows through. He starts at the beginning. The night that ended everything. The year 2000. He was young, stupid, on parole for burglary. He and his friends were riding around stealing rims from cars. Easy money. Quick scores. The kind of crime that feels harmless until it isn't. His friend's car was full. They needed more space. Ritchie decided to get a van or a truck, fill it up, sell everything. Simple plan. But nothing stayed simple. He got into a high-speed chase, lost control, crashed into a house, jumped out and ran. A police officer chased him. Young cop, fast, right on his heels. Ritchie was trying to get away. That's all. Just get away. He pulled out his gun and fired a couple times. Not to kill, to scare, to make the cop stop chasing, to buy himself a few seconds. The bullet hit, less than half an inch from where it needed to miss. Half an inch lower and the cop lives. Half an inch lower and Ritchie gets a long prison sentence, but not death row. Half an inch that changed everything. The officer died. Right there, in that moment, because of a decision Ritchie made without thinking, without understanding, without caring. He got away at first. Made it back to a family member's house. To a girl he was seeing. He didn't know the cop was dead. Not until he saw it on the news. The television showed everything. Officer down. Suspect at large. Manhunt underway. And Ritchie watched it, and something inside him broke. He knew he'd hit the cop, but he didn't know death had followed. He fell asleep, exhausted, terrified. When he woke up, his friend was there. They're outside, he said. Ritchie looked out the window. Red laser dots. Everywhere. Moving across the walls. Through the windows. In and out. Like a movie. Like something that couldn't be real, but was. He told his friend to leave. To get out before things got worse. He didn't have a gun anymore. Couldn't fight. Couldn't run. So he gave up. The trial came. The evidence was clear. The verdict was inevitable. Guilty. Death penalty. Ritchie sat there trying to look tough. Trying to show the court he didn't care. When the judge sentenced him to death, he laughed. Right there in the courtroom. Laughed at the judge. At the prosecutor. At everyone. The prosecutor called him the voice of evil. And maybe he was right. Ritchie admits it now. He deserved the death penalty then. He was young and didn't care about anybody but himself. Didn't care about consequences. Didn't care about the officer's family. Didn't care about anything. He deserved that sentence. The court was right. But then he went back to his cell. Alone. And it hit him. Really hit him. He was going to be executed. The state was going to kill him. He put his face in his pillow and cried. 25 years have passed since Ronald Sanford committed his crime. 18 years since Harrison left death row. 11 years since Ritchie arrived. 37 years since Rick Parrish walked through these gates. Time moves differently for each of them, but it moves the same way. Forward, relentlessly, toward endings they can see, but can't escape. Superintendent Bill Wilson walks death row every week. He knows all 12 men by name. They know him. He's respectful, professional. He doesn't call them friends, but some have likable qualities. Some make him smile despite himself. He checks on them, makes sure they're coping, makes sure the system is working, makes sure nobody is breaking down. He stops at each cell. Small conversations. McManus, it always amazes me how clean that cell is. Keep it up. McManus nods. He's got a lot of time. Nothing but time. Wilson moves on. Staying out of trouble? Yeah. All right. Simple exchanges. Human moments in an inhuman place. The prison runs on routine. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, medication, counts, yard time, showers, lockdowns, everything scheduled, everything controlled. The computer opens the doors. The computer closes them. No inmate controls their own movement. They wait for permission to exist. Out in general population, life is different. 2 hours of recreation every day. Time in the yard. Time to make allies. Time to breathe air that doesn't taste recycled. Inmates can earn privileges. Jobs. Extra commissary. Haircuts twice a month. Small freedoms that matter enormously when you have nothing. Lieutenant Gillespie explains the system. Every cell house has a board. Names. Cell numbers. Relationships. Debts. Grudges. They track everything because mistakes cost lives. If you accidentally let two enemies out together, if you put someone who owes money in the shower with the person he owes, if you make one error in the schedule, someone dies. Just like that. Because these men have nothing but time. They don't forget. They don't forgive. Sergeant Fagan runs the administrative segregation unit. The most dangerous inmates. The ones who can't be trusted anywhere else. He knows the threat. Guards go home at night. They think about dinner with their wives. Time with their kids. Normal life. Inmates don't have that. They sit in their cells and think. They plan. They remember who made them angry 2 weeks ago. And when the opportunity comes, they strike. You have to be awake. Fagan says, on your toes, every moment. Because these guys are smart. They're patient. And they have nothing but time. Richie thinks about time differently now. He's 32. That kid at 19 is gone. Dead. Buried under years of reflection. But he's not rehabilitated. He makes that clear. He won't lie about it. He's the kind of guy who needs to be in prison. If he lost his job on the outside, if he couldn't pay his bills, he'd get a gun and solve the problem. He wouldn't think twice. That's who he is. That's who he'll always be. His wife knows this. She married him anyway. She comes every weekend. She sits with him. She loves him. And she knows how this story ends. Either in a box or doing life in population. Those are his choices. Death or life without parole. And she has to watch him grow old through these bars. If he gets that chance. If the state doesn't kill him first. Paul McManus lost 84 pounds on death row. Depression. Stress. The roller coaster of hope and despair. He takes insulin now. Pills every day. His body breaking down while the state keeps him alive. Diabetes he never had before prison. Caused by the food. The stress. The weight fluctuations. The endless cycle of waiting. But he gets to leave his cell every day. Walk to the hospital. See regular people. See sunlight. That's the nice thing about being diabetic. He says, you get out. You get around normal people. It's something. Not much, but something. Ronald Sanford will turn 162 years. That's when he's eligible for parole. He'll be dead long before. Everyone knows it. He knows it. But the system says 100. So 100 it is. He reads his books. He writes his reminders on the wall. Strength. Well-being. Health. No man is your enemy. Every man is your teacher. Words to keep him sane. Words to fight the isolation. Rick Parrish mounted his photographs on cardboard, just in case. James Harrison took a deal for 150 years, because where there's life, there's hope. John Stevenson watched a man get stabbed 42 times in his first 2 weeks and learned to be a shark. These are the calculations of prison life, the mathematics of survival. Richie faces his future with clarity now. If execution comes, he'll feel regret, remorse, but also defiance. Why are you killing me? He'll ask, you said killing is wrong, but you're strapping me to this table. You're poisoning me to death. Premeditated, planned, legal murder. That's what he'll resent. Not the justice, but the hypocrisy. The doors close every night at Indiana State Prison. 1,900 men locked in their cells. 12 on death row. One will walk out soon. Down the corridor. Through the doors. To the gurney. The others will wait. For their turn. For their appeals. For their date. And life continues. Day by day. Year by year. In a place where time means everything and nothing. Where the sky is a memory. where freedom is a word people use for something that doesn't exist here, where men grow old in cages, where some die naturally, and some die because the state decides it's time. The last door closes, the computer locks it, the lights dim, and another day ends, exactly like the one before, exactly like the one that comes tomorrow, forever. If you found this story meaningful and would like to see more documentaries like this, a subscription would mean a lot, but only if it feels right to you. See you next time